third on comparing fractions, and this one's going to be a little bit long. I'm sorry, but you're going to pay attention, stop it when you need to, do whatever you need to do. But this one's really important. This is the foundation of almost all of our calculation with fractions. So comparing fractions. First of all, you can't compare fractions when they don't have the same denominator. So they have to have the same denominator. So what do? Well, you will be given 2 notes on this topic. One note is kind of the how to calculate, and the other note is how to think about it. So it's such an important topic that I've made 2 notes for you. So you will get those to help you. The first thing you do, there is actually 3 different methods to see how you can get equivalent fractions that have the same denominator, because then you can compare them. You can also add and subtract them too. So this lesson tells you everything about that. So the first thing you do is what I like to call the easy method. And it's the first one you try. You know why? Because it's easy. Okay, that's why you try it first. So here's an example of the type of question that you would use the easy method on. Let's say you are comparing 2/3 and 5/6. Well, we can't compare them yet because the denominators are not the same. So if we want to try and use the easy method, the first thing we do is we look at the denominators and see if the smallest denominator will divide evenly into the larger one. And oh my goodness, it will. If you say yes, it can, then you will be using the easy method. Now, see my circle here? In this circle, when I finish my question, I'm going to place my comparison symbol, which will be less than, greater than, or equal to. So I am now going to take the fraction of 2/3 and I'm going to create an equivalent or equal fraction with a denominator of 6. Here's how I do that. So I take my 2/3 and I want the denominator to be 6, right? That way I can compare them. What do I do to 3 to get 6? I multiply it by 2, right? 3 times 2 gives me 6. Remember the rule for fractions. Whatever you do to the bottom, you do to the top. So if I multiply the bottom by 2, I have to multiply the numerator by 2. 2 times 2 gives me 4. 4/6 is an equivalent fraction for 2/3. And for those of you that are really paying attention, you might notice something here. These are equal or equivalent fractions because we ended up multiplying them by 2/2, which is the same as 1. And the identity property says when you multiply a number by 1, what happens? You get the same number. In this case, the value is the same. So 2/3 of a Hershey bar is the same as 4/6 of a Hershey bar. But we're not done, because now we can compare 4/6 to 5/6. Well, now it's easy. 4/6 is less. That's using the easy method to compare fractions and create equivalent fractions. Now, I wish that worked every time, but alas, it does not. If your smaller denominator does not divide evenly into your larger denominator, then you can go on to the next method, which I call brute force. Now, these are my names, boys and girls, so I know when you go to 6th grade and you say to your math teacher, I'm going to use brute force, he or she's going to look at you and say, what are you talking, is that another thing, Mrs. Daphne? You're going, yes. So brute force. So this time this is my question. I want to compare 3/4 to 5/6. 5/6 is very popular. I noticed that my denominators are not the same. First thing I try, does 4 go into 6 evenly? No, it does not. So I go to the next method, number 2, brute force. And that name, actually I didn't give that name. That was a student who named that. I like it. So what we do is we must find the least common multiple for 4 and 6. least common, get it? Lesson 5? Yes! And you know how to find the least common multiple. You do the times tables for 6 and 4, and you find the least common multiple for them is 12. Okay, so now we have to make equivalent fractions for both of them, not just one, like in the easy method. Now we have to find both. So first we'll do 3/4. So we want to change our denominator of 4 into a denominator of 12. And to do that, we multiply it by 3. Whatever we do to the bottom, we must do to the top, which gives me 9/12. You see that? We must do the same thing for the second fraction. That's why this is not the easy method, you only do it once. Brute force, I have to do it twice. Okay, so I want the denominator to be 12, which means I multiply 6, this time by 2. Whatever I do to the bottom, I must do to the top. 5 times 2 is 10. Now I am comparing 9/12 to 10/12, which is pretty easy, less than. Make sense? Absolutely. Once your denominators are common and you've changed your numerators to go with your denominators, because whatever you do to the bottom, you must do to the top, it is really easy to compare fractions. Do you see where I'm going with this? Yeah, you're gonna. So that is method 2, brute force. Now, sometimes when you list the times tables, I like to go to brute force only up to the 5 times tables. If you go beyond the 5 times tables, boys and girls, it is now time to go to method number 3, which I know that Mrs. Newell has probably taught you, and it is called the butterfly. The butterfly is great. It works every single time, but it also can give you absolutely humongous numbers because you're multiplying. I'll show you. So let's say I am 1/3 times 4, 7. Now, let's say, okay. And I want to compare 1/3 and 4/11. Now, 3 does not go into 11 evenly, so I cannot use the easy method. I could use brute force, but in this case, I'm going to choose to use the butterfly. Now, you may recall that the butterfly, first thing you have to do is draw your butterfly, which is very cool. So you draw your wings like this. You draw the butt. Don't forget the butt. The butt is very, very important. And now you multiply across the wings and across the butt. When you multiply the butt, you're actually finding a common denominator. So 3 times 11 is 33. 11 times 1 is 11. 4 times 3 is 12. Now, when I take away my butterfly, I am left with two equivalent fractions. 11/33 and 12/33. Do you see that? Now I can compare them. Well, this one is smaller. And that's the butterfly. The butterfly works every time, but notice my numbers are getting pretty big. In 6th grade, you will have to be doing reducing fractions and simplifying them. And if you have huge numbers, that can be very difficult. So yes, you can use the butterfly for everything, but you're gonna actually be giving yourself more work. If you can use the easy method, please do that. Okay, so those are my 3 methods of calculating. Now, in your OneNote here, comparing fractions using a decision tree, I want to just remind you that one of the first things you can do is use your benchmarks to determine which ones are closer to 0, 1/2, and 1/2. Then you can go on to see if you're going to use the easy way, brute force, or the butterfly to actually make sure your estimate is correct. Now, your